Who did you draw inspiration from?
Christopher Nolan, Steven Spielberg, and J.J. Abrams.
How do you think Mr. Beast has changed the YouTube landscape?
I mean, he's absolutely brilliant. He's on another level.
Your passion almost disguises the risks that you take, which I think is one of your greatest superpowers.
I'm just going to do it regardless. And it's easier to do it on something I'm passionate about and a brand I love.
Is there another piece or another project that you have coming up that you'd like to talk about?
A big Indiana Jones, Tomb Raider, Uncharted fan film.
How have you found it's best to get your foot in the door with these brands, with the YouTube channel, with different people that you've wanted to work with?
Do projects on brands I'm passionate about. I got to work with like the actors from the movie. So like one of the big actors, Tyrese, Jordana Brewster.
$1 billion super yacht, and it's big enough to hold an entire city.
Welcome back to the Meet McKay Show. Today we have an absolute legend in the house with us, Devinsupertramp. Devin, thank you so much for joining us today. It's an absolute honor to have you here, and I can't wait to dive into a handful of questions that I have prepared for you.
Awesome, let's do it.
Cool. So one of the first things is we've already seen that you've built massive YouTube channels, not just one, but multiple. You have over 1 billion views across all of your channels. You know a lot of very important things. You've learned a lot of very hard lessons. What is something that you wish you could go back and tell younger Devin just starting out, picking up that camera or just posting that first YouTube video, not getting the views that you thought you would get?
Yeah, so I think for me, the biggest thing is everything comes and goes. So like one week you're crushing it and the next week you're like on an all-time low because nothing's happening with whatever you created that week or whatever it is. So just like knowing like there's going to be discouraging times, that like not to like settle on that, but know that also too, this too shall pass. But also the good times too shall pass. So it's like when you're in those big, amazing moments, like take advantage of it and just like keep on going with it and be stoked on it. But also know like when you're down and nothing's really happening, also know like that too is going to pass and that you're going to have those big exciting moments again. So for me, it's just like knowing like don't be discouraged. It's going to happen. And it's all part of kind of the ebbs and flows of doing anything on social media.
Got it. So what do you tell yourself? Like when you post in YouTube, for those of you who don't know, if you post a 1, it's like your best out of your last 10 videos. And if you post a 10, it's like your lowest views out of the last 10 videos. What do you tell yourself when you post a 1 versus a 10? Do you tell yourself the same thing? What do you tell yourself?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing is I'm always creating regardless if I'm working with a brand or this or that. So it's like, hey, I mean, the last video we did was an 8 out of 10. Like it says the 8th performing video out of the last 10 videos. But it was something I was really proud of and something I was really stoked on. And like I don't love those analytics that it shows you. I understand why they show them to you, but it does definitely make you feel discouraged. And I'm like, oh, I'm not good anymore or whatever goes to my head. But I'm also like, I have 3 other big projects I'm working on right now that I'm really stoked on. And I'm like, well, this next one has a chance to do it. So it's like I'm always competing against myself, which I think it could be a good thing too. So for me, it's just like knowing I have something else on the pipeline that could potentially change the game. Now, with that said, I've been in the same situation where, okay, the next one I put out, I think is going to blow up, and it's a 10 out of 10. It's not performing as my top one. And then it's like the next video I do, it's like this video is going to bomb, and it ends up being our best 1 out of 10. And it's like, so you never know unless you go out and try. So for me, it's like always having something in the pipeline that I'm going to release or know that it's kind of on the horizon. So there's always something I look forward to as far as can this change the game. So when you're on the 10 or on the 1 out of 10, then I'm like stoked. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I wasn't expecting this video to perform so well, but I'm going to kind of take advantage of it and whatever kind of happens from that. But regardless, I'm always creating something that can take the chance of kind of changing the game again. So
So you're always having something in the pipeline.
100%.
Love it. One of my favorite videos that you've posted, obviously you have some legendary ones. You have the rock swings. You have a bunch of videos that have been clipped up, have then since gone viral. One of my favorite videos is actually a motivational piece that you made 10 years ago, talking about when you're sleeping in the McDonald's parking lot, when you're sleeping under the tarp trying to get those sunrise videos. That was one of the videos that has stuck with me for the last 10 years. Like I think about it fairly often just because the grit you displayed was absolutely incredible. Oftentimes on the come up, we have to take a lot of risks that we're not sure are going to pan out or work well. What was one of the times that you took a big risk that either succeeded or didn't succeed that was a big risk for you at the time?
Yeah, so I'm actually making a sequel to that video soon, so stay tuned for that.
Yes, let's go.
Let's go. It's gonna represent like the last 13 years of my life and everything I've had to like fight through and endure through. But I'd say like earlier on, like money was really extremely tight. I was just borrowing everyone's camera to like make our YouTube videos. And then like once I had made some money, I took all that money. It was $14,000, and I used it to fund a Halo and live action video. And I was like, this is gonna be huge. This is gonna blow up. And I released it right before Christmas, like so stoked on this video, put so much time, money, all of my money I had into it, and it just bombed. It got no views. The comments weren't positive. I had released it like a few days after like a horrific school shooting. So there was a lot of stuff with like gun violence that had just happened. This is like sci-fi fighting Halo, you know, but still it was like super discouraging because it was like it made $20-$30 and I just spent $14,000 on it. And coming from like not having any money to even create and just putting everything there. So that was like super discouraging. But with that said, like that video now I want to say has like, I don't know, 7-8 million views 9 years later. So it's just like it's something that slowly built up over time, but it was definitely very discouraging when I first released it because I put all my money into it.
So at the time, did you view that as a like obviously you viewed that as a risk that didn't pay off? How did that make you super risk adverse, like gun shy to spending big money on a film, or did it say, okay, we need to spend more money on a film now?
No, I think my problem regardless is I love creating. So anything I make, I put right back into it. And
Okay.
then it doesn't make its money back. I don't make money off it. So then in my next couple projects, they're done on a $0 budget or an extremely small budget of whatever I can scrape up. So the reality for me is I'm going to keep on doing it, even if I have a budget or not. I started
Mhm.
with the $0 budget, so I know how to make that work. As far as like guerrilla filmmaking, doing things on a very small type budget. So for me, it's like I'm going to keep on creating, regardless if I have a budget. But it definitely like helps when I do get a budget. But I'll say one of the things I've learned is, generally speaking, the things that I do on a smaller budget usually perform the best. So when I
Interesting.
have the big like Hollywood budgets and working with Hollywood casts, like those things don't tend to perform as good as like the things I'm doing like very like homegrown. And I think maybe part of that is because I do things on YouTube and social media where it's about also connecting with people. When people see something that looks like they couldn't fund it themselves or do it themselves, it doesn't connect as much. So I think that's a big part of it too.
Got it. Cool. The discouragement from that video, it didn't translate, or did it, like, from the creative process at all?
I don't really think it did drastically. I think for me, I've learned doing this as much as I've done it. And everything I've done has kind of led up to creating on YouTube as far as like the different things I've done throughout my life. I've always been creating. But for me, it's like I've done it so many times now that I have like a thicker shell. Well, yes, I definitely like feel sad and discouraged, but I'm going to keep on creating whether it's good in people's eyes or not. And I think the thing I've learned through it all is try and chase what you're passionate and excited about instead of like trying to chase the views or the algorithm. So I've come to the point now where it's like I never know anymore if something's going to take off or not. So I just try and create something I'm passionate about and excited about. So if it still bombs, that's okay because I just created something I'm really proud of.
Got
So
it.
it's not like a complete loss. It's like, well, I'm proud of that and I'm stoked on
Yeah.
that. And I put my heart into that. And I can say that like honestly, when I do stuff like that, it definitely like helps drastically compared to like trying to chase the views. And I put it out there and I'm not really proud of it and it still bombs. And it's like I've done no one good, especially myself.
Got it. Cool. Thank you. I've heard you reference in other podcasts or other interviews before that being uncomfortable is a super important part in the filmmaking process or in building a business or building a channel. What was one of those times where you were uncomfortable, like in a good way, pushing a shoe or pushing the envelope in your business where it's like, well, like this is gonna be really hard, really uncomfortable, but we have to do it. What was one of those times for you?
I think it's usually when I have bigger budgets, because when you have bigger budgets and you're working with bigger companies, they expect a lot more from you as well. And they're expecting to essentially make that money they just invested in the project plus whatever that is. So I think
Mhm.
one of our first like big, massive brand deals we did was with Mountain Dew, and it was a big budget. It was filming 7, 8 videos across the United States with their fans. And it was like they were paying for it all. And I was like, I just really want this to take off. And there's just like all that type of pressure. So for me, I think a big part of it was like working with bigger brands where there was a lot more at stake. So I felt a lot more weight. But with that said, it's almost like a muscle where I started working with so many different brands where then that fear kind of started to go away because I started feeling like more confident with what I was doing, with what I was creating, and I understood the system and how it worked.
Got it. Cool. Thank you. I like that a lot. What is a key that you found getting your foot into the door of a big industry? Whether that be you're wanting your dream job, whether you're wanting a certain thing, how have you found it's best to get your foot in the door with these brands, with the YouTube channel, with different people that you've wanted to work with?
Yeah. So for me, it's definitely been creating videos on companies I love, and then they generally see those videos. So a good example is like earlier year 2 of creating on YouTube. I was a big fan of Assassin's Creed. Reached out to them, said, "Hey, I have this idea of doing parkour in the Assassin's Creed costume. I'd love to do it." And they're like, not sure if it's really a good fit as far as live action. We're a video game company. So I did the video, and it has like over, I don't know, 70, 80 million views on YouTube. And then they were like, "This is amazing, Devin." Then they're reaching out to me and saying, "Devin, we want to hire you to do the next Assassin's Creed video. And then now we want to hire you to do one for another video game we have called Watchdog, and another video game we have called Far Cry." So it led to like, I want to say 10 other big brand deals just because I funded my own little project, and I probably spent $1,000 on it. And then it led to all these massive opportunities that have taken me literally around the world. And it was the same thing. Like I wanted to make movies for Jurassic Park. Like Jurassic Park was the ultimate movie I could have done anything on. So I did this like very small budget. I'm talking like $500 Jurassic Park fan film I shot in Hawaii at several locations. I was living out there at the time, so it wasn't like an extra expense. I used my wife as my actress, and I posted that on YouTube. And then like a month later, Universal Pictures emailed me and said, "Devin, we saw your Jurassic Park video. We loved it. We have our new movie coming out, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. We want to hire you to do a big promotional video for that." So like, amazing. And then from that relationship, then they hired me to do one for First Man with Ryan Gosling. So I got to meet like the whole cast and crew, the director, Michelle, who did La La Land. And then from there, they hired me to do one for Fast and the Furious 9. So I got to work with like the actors from the movie. So like one of the big actors, Tyrese, Jordana Brewster, like all these amazing actors that I like kind of grew up watching all the movies. Then they're acting in my movie. So I'm directing them on the back lot of Universal Studios. And then they hired me to do one for the last Jurassic World Dominion as well. And then I had like Bryce Dallas Howard, one of the main actresses in it, in my video. And it was all because I had done a fan film on a very small budget. I mean, like my dinosaur was an inflatable costume, like is very small budget as you can get compared to like what these people are doing. But it definitely like connected really well. And after I did that video, the first one with Universal, it ended up getting over 30 million views on YouTube and over 100 million views on Facebook. So then they like kind of saw it like, "Oh, we need to keep on working with this guy." So that's a very long answer, but it's just like
that's
very clearly like do projects on brands I'm passionate about. Once again, if nothing happens, that's okay, but I'm doing something on something I love.
That's awesome. Devin, to me, it seems like your passion almost disguises the risks that you take, because you talked about making that Halo video. You put 14 grand into it, and you wanted that video to blow up. And it kind of did the opposite of what you were expecting. But here you are reaching out to these brands. You're wanting to make these beautiful partnerships, but they say no. Instead, you make your own version, taking your risk on that brand, kind of just doing it out of your passion, the love for it. And it ends up coming back like tenfold. It seems to me that your passion almost disguises the risks that you take, which I think is one of your greatest superpowers, honestly.
Yeah, I've never heard that, but I love that, and I think it's spot on. Like Nintendo was to me probably like the ultimate of ultimates because I grew up Nintendo, and it was the same thing. Like I do anything for Nintendo, and it was me. So I was like, okay, I made a Mario Kart like video, and Nintendo saw it, and then they hired me to do like 2 commercials for them, and then they hired me to do like a full-on brand deal on our channel for Smash Brothers. And then like they always send me like free products before the release. So just like a cool, like I'm in the Nintendo ecosystem. And it was for me just creating something I'm passionate about. Like, but like you said, it's like essentially being disguised or going in as like a Trojan horse, but that's not the intention. I'm just going to do it regardless. And it's easier to do it on something I'm passionate about and a brand I love than just some random thing that I'm trying to make up, which I do those too. But generally speaking, I should try and do it on things that I'm just excited about.
That's awesome. And I think that's maybe on paper it doesn't make sense, but doing it because you love it may be one of the reasons that you are where you at, is just because like I don't care what happens. Like I love doing this. Like that's what makes me happy. And I think that is just a beautiful accidental Trojan horse into becoming as large as you have in terms of YouTube views. So I think that's awesome. What was there a moment in time when you felt like your filmmaking career just wasn't gonna pan out? Where it was like after a shoot, where it was just like, man, like I just can't get the ball rolling, or did you always just have a little bit of momentum? What was that?
I don't know how to answer that because it's never been a question of is this going to work out or not. It's just like, well, what am I trying to make work out? Like, am I, because originally I was going to be a Hollywood, like I wanted to be like a Hollywood filmmaker, director, but I'm not that. But I get to work with all the people that are in that system, but I get to create with my control. So I almost feel that's better in a lot of ways for me.
Mhm.
And I don't have to
Mhm.
be gone for as long and this or that. So I think for me to answer that question, I don't really feel like I'm trying to think of how to answer this in like a elegant way,
Well,
profound way.
was there a time that you were just very discouraged where you're like, "I don't know if I love this anymore," or did that love never fade?
No, the love has never faded.
Okay.
Like it's like, well, what would you do if you weren't a filmmaker? That's what I am.
Crickets, yeah.
Yeah, that's just there's no other like substitute. And I definitely have like weeks where I'm not like profitable or like crushing it. Like more, I'm definitely more in the negative than the positive, as far as like the ups and downs, but I'm definitely fueled by just loving it. Um, so I just keep on doing that, and I'm not making a living this week, but the next month I will be, kind of thing. So, and that's okay. Like I understand the highs and the lows, and I just fight through it the best I can. But it definitely can
Yeah.
be very discouraging. I think filmmaking and being on social media is one of the most like lonely jobs in the world because very few people understand it because they're like not in that system, and I wouldn't recommend being in that system. But I've learned to just love it and go with it, and whatever happens happens. So, but I'm definitely figuring it out every month, every week, because it is always changing and evolving, and um, just going with it.
Beautiful. Thanks. Who did you draw inspiration from?
I mean, Steven Spielberg, Christopher, I would never compare my films to their films, but like Christopher Nolan, Steven Spielberg, and J.J. Abrams, those are kind of three of the like real Hollywood filmmakers that I've always just loved and admired their work. So I definitely think like a lot of the type of stuff they do, I'd like love to do, and a lot of the styles that they do. When I first was kind of diving into YouTube and what that meant, I was studying a lot of different YouTubers. Some of those YouTubers would be people like Mystery Guitar Man, which isn't around. He does feature films now, though. People like iJustine, Corridor Digital, like those were the people I was kind of looking at as like, what are these guys doing, and learning from that.
Got it. How do you think Mr. Beast has changed the YouTube landscape? Because you two are around a similar era. How do you feel like you've kind of seen him explode from the beginning? How has he changed the landscape in your opinion?
I mean, he's absolutely brilliant. He's on another level of like just mind, the way he thinks and everything, which I'm not like an analytical person. And I'm not sure if maybe he would describe himself as that, but he definitely thinks on a whole nother wavelength than me, for sure. And for me, it's just, I mean, we definitely create two different types of content. But when a lot of people were having a ton of success with vlogging, they're like, Devin, you gotta start vlogging, like that will keep you like crushing it. And I tried it for a little bit and I just like wasn't passionate about it. And for me, it was just like trying to follow the things that I love, and hopefully I can make something out of that as far as like making it profitable. But you never really know. You just kind of make it up as you go. But definitely like Mr. Beast, like, and honestly too, I haven't like dived into all of his videos, but I like 100% respect him. I'm extremely aware of everything he's done. We've talked shortly for a little bit, and he was just like super friendly and real and down to earth. And I think that's also one of his strengths, that he does things larger than life but he's also like a relatable human being. And I think that's a
Very
big.
cool. That's awesome. If you had to bet, let's say $100,000 on any creator right now in the landscape that's on the come up, who are you seeing that's just absolutely crushing it right now from your perspective?
I don't really follow the creator scene. Like I actually looked at VidCon. VidCon's like the big thing they do once a year. And the
Mhm.
first 7 years I got invited to VidCon, or a year from 2 to 7, 2 to 8, I was invited every year. So I was like, who's going to be at VidCon this summer? And I looked them up, like all the creators. And I was like, I don't know any of these creators.
Ah,
It's like, it's just a different ecosystem. And for me, I don't really follow that scene. Like there's only a few YouTubers that I actually like follow, but I'm not like really like diving into, like people like Peter McKinnon. I love Corridor Digital. Like those are the YouTubers that kind of look to and watch like these days, but I'm not really aware of like the upcoming scene. I'm just kind of living in my own world, in my own bubble. I'm just kind of creating things I'm excited about. But even though I create content on YouTube, I don't watch a ton of YouTube. And there's another guy, Arlo, who I just love. He's another YouTuber. He just talks about Nintendo stuff, but he's with a puppet. So it's just like really fun and entertaining, just like a good family-friendly content.
That's awesome. Cool. And let's see, when your first video went viral, walk me through that. Your first viral video where you posted it and you woke up the next morning and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is insane. What was that video? Walk me through what that felt like, the anticipation of posting it. What did you think of the video was going to do? What was that like?
My roommate at the time, Jeff Harmon, he's like, Devin, you need to create a YouTube channel. And I was like, I don't really want to do YouTube. That's not my thing. And YouTube wasn't like YouTube now. And he's like, that's going to be kind of the future of filmmaking, at least for a while. And we just seen a video not too far from where we're going to BYU. And it was a alpine bike jump. It was like a bike jump into a pond, and a girl had fallen, and they filmed it. It had like 2 million views. It was on a TV show called Tosh 2.0. And it was getting like a lot of attraction or attention. And so he's like, you should recreate this video, but do it in your style where it's very like cinematic and very like beautifully well shot. And I was like, all right, let's just see and just do it for fun. And my friend, Dave Pearson, he had a song that we used for that video as well. So we like kind of collaborated together, put it on YouTube. And the first day got, I don't know, 100 views. I posted it on a Sunday night. Like I remember pretty vividly. And then the next day it had like 1,000 views. And then like a couple weeks later, it was at like 400,000 views. So it wasn't like instant, but it was fairly quickly compared to, I think, what most people get to experience. And it definitely was really exciting. I think one of the things that was really exciting is people started reaching out to me. Companies started reaching out to me and said, hey, we love this video that you just did. We had people like Mountain Dew reaching out to us. Another big company at the time, Flip Cameras, were like, Devin, we just saw this video you did. We want to hire you to do a nationwide TV commercial. So this was like me still as a like poor college student. And I have these like big companies saying, hey, we want you to do a big campaign for us or a big commercial project for us. So it all happened within a couple like weeks/month. So it definitely was really exciting. It was, but when you're in the moment, you don't realize you're in the moment. You're just like trying to figure it out. Like, oh, I've never dealt with this. And I've never dealt with a paycheck like this and this or that. Mm-hmm. So it's like having to figure it out. Okay, now I need to get an accountant, and like it's just everything had happened fairly quickly though. And then I think honestly though, like the biggest thing for me, like you have a viral hit, and then the next month you're like kind of out of sight, out of mind again. So one of the things I learned, especially early on when I was trying to build something, it was about consistent content. So I started like I made it the goal that I'm going to post a video once a week, no matter what. No matter how, whatever it is, I'm going to do it. And I think once I committed to that, that's when I saw my career take off. It wasn't from like a viral hit. It was from like consistency. Consistent content means a consistent audience. So I did that for like 3 years straight of a video a week. And that's when I had the most success, but that's also when I had the most burnout, where I was like totally exhausted. Like I couldn't do that with a wife and kids. Like that was me as like a single dude with very little commitment. And that's why I was able to make that happen.
Got it. Very cool. Thank you for sharing that. Last question for you. I really appreciate your time. It's been absolutely phenomenal. I would ask you where we can find you, but I think it's pretty obvious. YouTube Devinsupertramp, and you can see a lot of Devin's work. Is there another piece or another project that you have coming up that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, we have 2 big ones that are already done. I shot them back in January. A big Indiana Jones, Tomb Raider, Uncharted fan film. It's part 2. We did one last year and people loved it. So I'm doing a sequel. And cool. Then I'm doing, it's already done. It's 100% done. It's sound mix, everything's done. But I'm a big fan of the video game Metal Gear Solid. So I kind of knew that there was a high rumor that a remake was going to come out. So I kind of, back in January, I shot a big film out in Hawaii as well. And I'm like, it's one of my favorite projects. So I'm really excited for that. But like that video is done. And it's like, I could release it now, but I'm kind of waiting until like they release a little bit more about the video game so I can kind of go off of that hype. So I'm trying to make things also calculated with what I do where it makes sense.
Very cool. Well, definitely, if you guys are watching, go check out Devin's channel. Go turn your notifications on, because those are videos I promise you're going to want to see. Last question for you, Devin. I'm 23 years old. I have my dream job. I've also started, as you can tell, a podcast on the side. what advice do you have for me in terms of growing a podcast or growing a channel in this type of content and this type of environment?
Yeah, well, I definitely don't know anything about podcasting. That's for sure. But I like going back to what I said. I think one of the biggest things is just like consistency, and have it like where your audience knows when to expect that. So we were doing videos every Tuesday, like, and it was on our like banner, like new videos every Tuesday. So it made people aware, like, you need to come back every Tuesday and check out this channel because you're going to have something there.
Got
So
it.
for me, the biggest thing is that if you're starting anything, like if you're not consistent, you can't really build it up. Um, with that said, Mr. Beast, because we had talked about him, and I actually listened to another podcast yesterday, is one of the things that's kind of unique about Mr. Beast is he isn't consistent when he releases a video. Like, it's not set in stone if it's going to be a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Thursday. So, I mean, he's on another world, on another frequency. But generally speaking, I say for most people, if you're not consistent with a set schedule, you're not going to really grow much. So that'd be, I think, my first big thing. And then I think a big thing is just like not getting discouraged, that you're doing it because you love it. Like, are you going to keep on doing this podcast at 3 years from now if nothing's really happening with it? And if you can say, like, I love doing this, I enjoy doing this, then you're probably in a good place where you can actually do it and be consistent, where you can build an audience, even if it's year 4 or 5 into it. But I mean, during the pandemic, we started another YouTube channel called Visual Escape, and it's every day it's a relaxing nature video. And I mean, every day we've done that for 2 years, 2.5 years straight. And that channel isn't massive; it isn't huge, but we have a consistent like schedule. So we're at like 70,000 subscribers, and this isn't a channel I talk about anywhere. It's like kind of my own like side hustle business that I do because I love filming nature, but that doesn't really work great on our main channel. So I was like, I need another outlet to kind of express that. So I started this other channel, but I know that channel will do well over time. But that also means that could be 4, 5, 6 years from now, where it's actually like profitable. But it's always like being it for the bigger picture too. I think that's another big part of it. Is anything generally speaking worth having, or that's successful, takes time. And sometimes that can be a lot of time, sometimes that can be a short amount of time, but it takes time. And it's just a matter of when that's going to take off. So that's why it's important to be passionate and excited about it, regardless.
Got it. Yeah, thank you. This is for me a 10-year project. So I'm in no hurry to go anywhere to get any views. This is just a 10-year project. I love sitting down talking to cool guys like you. So it's an absolute honor to have you here, Devin. Thank you so much for coming on. If you guys haven't yet, go subscribe to Devin's channel. Leave a like, leave a comment, and like always, see you next time. Thanks for watching.
See you guys. Peace.
Awesome.